Hello YouTube, this is Justin Game 44 here, and as of this day, this is Mary Tudor's 505th birthday. Happy birthday, Mary Tudor. Today, I want to make a video about her, so why don't we begin? Who was she? Well, many people know her as Bloody Mary, but really, Bloody Mary, we now think about it as a cocktail drink, or that same old legend that if you say her name 3 or how many times in the mirror, I really don't know that much. But the real Bloody Mary was known as Queen of England. She was known as for burning her Protestants for her Catholic religion. She burned over 200 of them, and she was really vicious and cruel. But why? Well, why don't we talk about her? When she was first born, she was Henry VIII and Queen Catherine of Aragon's firstborn child, really. She technically had other siblings, but her other siblings were either stillborns or died very young. She did have a brother in Henry, but her brother died only just a few months, which was really sad. Only around 50 or 60 days, I believe, which was really sad. But besides all that, who was she really? Well, being the only child, she was seen to be the heir to the throne, I may. But back at this time, England only had one queen who was the heir to the throne, but quickly got kicked out from being on the throne. But that was 100 years before they were born. If you want me to make a video on that, sure. But nonetheless, Mary Tudor was eventually seen as the heir to the throne, but Henry wanted more from this. Because of Catherine not being able to deliver more children, this had eventually caused divorce. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, a divorce, not that problem. Well, if you had known about the story back then, you would have known how many things it cost, which would completely change England forever. King Henry VIII met a girl named Anne Boleyn, who would not actually become a mistress or get into bed or do anything with him until he would get divorced from his wife. Now, this did cause a lot of problems, because really, Henry VIII was determined to actually make Anne Boleyn his new wife. But the Pope would say no because this was a royal marriage, and the only one that could give it was the Pope of Rome. And because of this took several years, but Henry VIII had enough. So he decided to split the whole entire Catholic religion and make himself the Church of England. Where now, he changed the whole entire country from Catholic to Protestant. This would change many things, and many people were forced to actually sign the agreement where he was head of church and Anne Boleyn was the new queen. After which, Queen Catherine of Aragon was hereby banished from court, so was pretty much Anne, so was also Mary. They were not, both her and her mother were not allowed to see each other because of Henry. He did actually allow, though, that they could have seen if they would have both agreed that Anne Boleyn was a Tudor and Mary was a bastard. Anne Boleyn was the official Queen of England, Mary Tudor was a bastard, and their marriage was never actually legal. Now you're probably wondering, why was their marriage not actually illegal? Well, it's how many people really see it, but really maybe we can agree that their marriage was illegal because back then, Queen Catherine of Aragon married King Henry VIII's older brother, but their marriage was never consummated, so therefore it never counted as an actual marriage. So, because of this caused many things to happen, and pretty much he even used this against the reason why they should be divorced because the whole entire reason why back then. Which was sad. For the next 3 years, really, Mary Tudor went from being a princess to being nothing more than a bastard child that Henry never wanted, and all she got really was to become from a princess to becoming a servant for her half-little sister Elizabeth, and to Boleyn Tudor, which for the next 3 years, this would have been how it's been for over years. Throughout her whole entire life as well, she would be suffering dysmenorrhea. This was a thing that she always had throughout her whole entire life that pretty much gave her agonizing pains and cramps, which was really painful for her, which would cause serious how she would eventually look in the future, and really from all the stress she went through her life. And pretty much all of this was just always stress enough for her, and would be more on the way in. So, what really happened during all this time? Well, for many things, she really was nothing more than a servant, but really she would never accept this. She would never accept Henry. Henry VIII's new wife to be Queen of England, or as a bastard child, and many people were supporting her. But sadly, on 1536, this is when everything changed. Two things really happened. First, her mother sadly died, which this really was a lot of pain, and she wasn't even allowed to actually grieve for her mother. And honestly, she felt like there was no place for her in England. She was thinking about actually wanting to leave and everything, going to her mother's country, home Spain. But also around the same time, just a few months later, Anne Boleyn, the woman that caused all of this, pretty much eventually King Henry VIII had her execution for many things that weren't actually true about her for what she did, but she was executed nonetheless. And really, because of all this made her happy, thinking that everything was going to change. She even signed a letter to her father, but King Henry VIII was still not happy. And now this was even more serious. King Henry VIII was actually forcing her daughter to sign a paper that pretty much would say that she is a bastard and everything, that her marriage with his mother was never actually true. It was all completely annoyed. But really, she had no choice because she could have suffered really bad things happen to her. And also, the people that were supporting her as well, execution for trial for treason. She had no choice to do it, but really, there was something at least good came out of this. Because of her, she was actually welcomed back into the royal family and put into the back line as successor. Happy family, right? Well, wrong. The truth is, she always had a sense of regret and guilt for what she did and everything for signing it, as well as many other things. And really, even though she was a princess again, there were still many things bad about this. Well, she never even got married. She would never even have kids. That's the sad part. And really, many things. However, though, her and Elizabeth had at least grown a little bit closer as siblings now, so that's at least good. On top of that, Henry VIII eventually had a son named Edward. Now, both Edward and Elizabeth, and all of them would soon become a good family, at least a little bit for time. But when King Henry VIII finally died, and after all the pain and suffering that from her illness went through, her face was starting to show all the pain, and she looked really ugly now, as you can see from the picture on her right side. It's dang. But really, what was it about? Really, now that her brother was into the heir to the throne, but would sadly die after 6 years later. And finally she would get her chance. Well, wrong. Before he died actually, Edward ordered that his cousin, Jane would take over the throne. For the next 9 days, everyone, at first you think, oh, everyone was going to accept this and everything. Well, wrong. She wasn't technically the one who was next in line to the throne. It was actually Mary Tudor. She felt like she was cheated out, and believe me, she was not going to tolerate it. Both Elizabeth and her actually had a complete rebellion army, and after 9 days of being queen, she lost her head, which was sad for the poor 16-year-old, but this had to be done pretty much for her to get the throne. Now, nonetheless, after that, she finally got the throne after all this time. And for the next 5 years, she started burnishing Protestants and everything. Which, really, you can't actually blame her. Okay, really, throughout Mary Tudor's whole entire life, Mary Tudor pretty much had to hide her religion for what she was raised to be. She was raised to be Catholic by her mother. And really, after so many things that happened to her, I see when she finally became queen, she finally wanted to make other people how she felt in a way. Because how everyone treated her, how her father, how everyone else, even what her own brother did when he died, tried to take the throne away from her, as how many people tried to as well. But nonetheless, she would rule for over 5 years, and believe me, her name Bloody Mary would have become a trophy. Would have become a trophy of horror and pain and misery. Many Protestants were born because she was trying to force the Catholic religion back and everything as well to it. Now, because of this, she soon found out to be pregnant after she soon married Around this time, she was now 38 years old. For boring precautions, and she eventually got married to her Spanish prince lover. But this was all pretty much not really deep. Her husband really did not love her all that much, and he mostly spent his time in his own kingdom. And when she found she was pregnant, at first it looked like it was all great. She had so many things set up: a wooden carriage, a wooden bassinet. Like she had made things ready for the giving birth thing. But sadly, this turned out to not be true, as well for the second time. She probably suffered a tumor mixed with something that would cause her belly to swell up, made her think she was pregnant. Back at this time, there really was no way seeing if she really seeing if it was a false pregnancy or not. But after the 11 and 10, and after the 11 months passed of being pregnant, she really realized she wasn't pregnant at all, and this was a problem for her. It was actually really sad, but she had to eventually came to the accept that she wasn't going to have a child, as well as an heir to the throne. Which also, this made her really hate Elizabeth. She even had her in prison for most of her time for her reign because maybe people would try to ask. Maybe she believed that maybe people were trying to get Elizabeth to become the throne by getting her assassinated and everything. Which this was really sad. She even was thinking about executing her own little sister for being the daughter of Anne Boleyn, and really made people didn't like that back then. But nonetheless, she had to eventually came to the fact, and she probably did even regret pursuing her own little sister, because before she even did die, she actually did sign the papers making Elizabeth her heir. So this is how it eventually was. I really do feel sorry for her. After everything, I feel like she finally snapped and took all her pain out on the Protestants, that pretty much she was forced to act like one. She had to hide her religion and everything. Her mother, she wasn't allowed to grieve, and honestly, Henry was a horrible father for how she treated Mary. And for many other reasons as well. I mean, dang. Like, I could make a whole entire video about King Henry VIII, what he did and everything during his time as king, what Catherine of Aragon did, and well, dang, a lot of other things. And what her own brother trying to kick her out of the line of succession, that was just horrible. But nonetheless, she sadly died, and really, all she wanted left was to be buried right next to her mother, which she couldn't even get back by the last wish. Really, all she got was to be buried next to a small little tomb that really didn't look like a royal grave at all. Matter of fact, all her other members of the family looked like they all got like a royal tomb looking like, but as for her, she ain't got nothing. Anne Boleyn pretty much got like a floor, but she kind of got something similar to a stone thing. Heck, even her own mother's grave looks better than hers, which that's surprising. Anne Boleyn and everyone else pretty much got their own tombs. But nonetheless, she couldn't get buried next to her own mother, which was really sad. And besides all that, we all eventually came to know her as Bloody Mary. And her sister would become known as the best queen, Anne Boleyn, which whoever thought that would have happened. Honestly, I do feel sorry for what happened to her. Honestly, I wanted to make this video for her to show what happened. Really, I think she could have been a really great queen if it wasn't for how Queen Henry VIII treated her, and how she did it, and how he made her hide her religion, for what she believed in, and for what many things he did really to her, as well with her brother, what she did try. Like, if she was just treated better, I think she would have never actually became the person she was, which really, I feel sorry for her. Now, nonetheless, I want to say happy birthday, Mary Tudor. I hope you really do have a great anniversary here. And nonetheless, this is Upton Game 44, signing out. Until then, I'll see you all later. Bye!